What, you have a podcast?
Really?
Computer, show the historical documents.
It's just time for a theocratic monarchy. King Trump, for life. Let's go.
I said, no, Sean, I'm going to be a dictator. I said that.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Recovery from Politics Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Frame, and today is Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. So, the Super Bowl is set. It's the Chiefs versus the 49ers. It's the Super Bowl nobody wanted. I was really rooting when it came down to the Final Four for the Baltimore Ravens versus the Detroit Lions, in which case I could be happy no matter who won, because while Baltimore, the city, has won a ring before, Lamar Jackson has not, and Lamar Jackson is very frequently being crapped on because of, his postseason success or lack thereof, and that's just not fair. It's so strange. The quarterback gets all the blame, yet also all the success. As a lot of people have pointed out, Tom Brady sucked in a lot of his Super Bowls, especially early on. Like, it was the defense carrying his sorry butt, but nobody wants to, take that away. They're like, oh no, Tom Brady won 6 or 7 Super Bowls, and it's like, but not by himself, and vice versa. He also lost 3 Super Bowls, but nobody's going to say, oh, it was all Tom Brady's fault. So the whole thing is stupid. But I really just wanted Lamar Jackson to have a Super Bowl ring, because apparently once you get that, you're immune from all criticism, because Aaron Rodgers got one over 10 years ago, and only lately, since his personality is trash, have people started dumping on him. But really, he's untouchable. He has a Super Bowl. He's untouchable. So, I was kind of hoping that just so that the media could stop focusing so much on his postseason success. I don't think it's fair, but whatever. I'm not an expert on football. I just watch it. Of course, my Seahawks are out of it, but they did get a new head coach. They have an interesting assistant head coach. It's shaping up to be a very interesting coaching tree that we're going to get there. And I'm optimistic, even with Geno Smith as quarterback. We'll see what this guy can do with him, if he wants to do anything with him. Me personally, I would love if they, sold the farm and moved up. Get somebody. I like Michael Penix Jr. Out of Washington State. I don't know if that would be great for him. Hi, this is Indy. Hi, Indy. What is it? Yeah? I'm on here. I'm talking. The internet. Yes. Anyway. I would love him, but I don't know if that's really fair, considering, you're going straight from the Husky football program to the Seattle Seahawks football program. It's like, the town would go crazy, and I don't know if that's too much pressure for somebody in their, lower 20s. Like, we're expecting a lot of this person. This person's supposed to go out on a professional stage and perform at the highest level, and we expect it almost immediately these days. Like, if the rookie quarterback doesn't win 10 games in his first season, he's garbage, right? And it's immediately like, well, we got to find somebody else, regardless of what the rest of the team is. Like that's why what's going on in Chicago, I think, is really weird. So I don't know if that's the right choice. I know talent-wise he's great, but again, I don't know about that X factor there, that maybe this city knows him too well, kind of a deal. But regardless, I think they should make a splash. They should move up. They should try to get somebody to really, if not take over this year for Geno Smith, spend a year as an understudy. This idea that the rookie comes in and immediately starts and is immediately great is a relatively new phenomenon in football. Not even 15, 20 years ago, it would be very common for a quarterback to sit behind a veteran for 1, 2, maybe even 3 seasons. I mean, go look at Jordan Love with the Green Bay Packers. He sat behind Aaron Rodgers for several years. And now he's come into it, and, there were some rough patches early on, but all of a sudden people are like, yeah, they found their quarterback. I mean, how amazing is that? He's already being compared to Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. It's like, wow, Green Bay can really pick a quarterback. But that's just what's going on in the world these days. I just saw the Barbie movie. I loved it. It's fantastic. It's hilarious. It really is pretty good. I was I did not know where it was going. You know, I knew the basic premise just from some of the ads. I try to avoid trailers as much as I can, but from what I saw, you know, Barbie has trouble. She's having an existential crisis inside Barbie Land. She goes to the real world, and you know, hilarity ensues. And the trailers do a really good job of not really letting you know where the story goes and takes you. And I love that they did that. Too many times the trailers give away too much of the film. They didn't in this case. I had no idea how any of it was going to go. That was fantastic. So I highly recommend that film. Of course, I still think the creator is really being underserved. It's a science fiction movie. Those typically are overlooked a bit, but it really was a fantastic film. I love the switch at the end. So there's a famous scene in Terminator 2 where human robot, and they're having a very emotional, you know, scene. And in this movie, they reverse it. It's pretty much the exact same scene, but this time it's role reversal. You know, it's the human and is doing what the robot did in Terminator 2 and vice versa. And I really, you know, especially if you saw that movie and you loved it as much as I did when I was a kid, you see it immediately, and it's just like crazy. And me with my hypersensitivity, like the waterworks were just pouring for that. So highly recommend both those films. I think one of them is getting all the praise it deserves. Greta Gerwig definitely should have got Best Director nomination. Not so sure about Margot Robbie. She did fine. She did great in this role. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if it was Best Actress caliber, but Best Director caliber, like Greta Gerwig definitely deserved to be nominated. Like, she did so much for this, where you could easily see this with a different director and it would just crash and burn. But that's all there is today for pop culture that I'm thinking about. Let's get to it. So there's this thing going on in social media. I see it a lot, and it's also happening in polls. And, you know, the polls and social media are kind of in agreement that the youth really doesn't like Biden. And Muslim Americans right now really don't like Biden. And the amazing part is, you know, social media is taking the polls that say that, and I believe them. I take them at their word. I take the polls at their word, because also on social media you are seeing Muslim Americans and young Americans basically just trashing Biden constantly. And these aren't Republican young people. These are very, very liberal people. You know, flirted with Bernie Sanders, probably would vote for an out and open socialist if given the opportunity. And they're just crapping on Biden constantly for a myriad of reasons. When it comes to the Muslim American thing, though, the thing that I see on social media that is really, to me, offensive is this notion that, oh, don't you know that Trump would be way worse? It's so stupid of you. You're cutting your nose to spite your face. It's the biggest stupid thing in history. Like, people are talking down to these Muslim Americans who are like, you know, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. I don't get that. I think that's very stupid on our part. Anybody who's going and attacking a Muslim American and is like, why don't you vote for Biden? Don't you understand? Don't you get it? Like, Trump's going to be way worse. He wants to do a Muslim ban and he'll just let genocide happen. Like, he won't even pretend to put restraints on any of it. Like that's all true. It is true. It is a 100% fact. Donald Trump, as president of the United States, under these circumstances, would be 100,000 times worse. It is a fact. I don't think you could argue it. If you're Muslim American, you have to acknowledge, yes, Trump will be worse. But is it really our job? Is it yours or mine to go to these same Muslim Americans on social media and berate them? Because I think that's doing it a disservice. I will vote for Biden or whoever the Democratic nominee happens to be. Given his age, you have to add that caveat, right? Biden is infinitely better than any Republican. Nikki Haley, DeSantis, Tim Scott, doesn't matter. Biden, any Democrat, is 100 times better than any Republican. They are all spineless cowards, every single one of them. So I will vote for Biden for strictly the one reason of, you know what, I'm pretty sure if he's not going to go fight for women's rights, which so far he has not, and that's pissed me off, you know what he won't do? he will not nominate, if a seat opens up, he will not nominate a anti-abortion justice to the Supreme Court. He won't make the problem worse. Okay? If you elect Donald Trump, that's going to happen. Okay? Or any Republican. If, Sotomayor, Kagan, anything happens to any of the 3 remaining liberal justices, make no mistake, they will be replaced with a hardline anti-abortion conservative and set us back even further. So, Biden's not going to do that. He's not. He's already proven he won't because he's got Miss Jackson. And she's definitely, left of everyone else on that board. So I'll take it. And yes, it's easy for me to acknowledge that the Middle East is a shit show right now, and Trump will make it worse. He will either ignore it, which actually might be a better outcome, but more people will die that way. He could get completely involved, or he could just nuke it, because he's played with that idea in the past. This is a man who has absolutely no sense of right or wrong. He just wants the problem to go away, and if he's convinced himself, or someone has convinced him, that, just dropping a nuke on Tel Aviv totally solves this problem, sir, he will do it. It will be bad, right? But at the same time, I have no skin in this game, other than I am an American. That's just it. I am not Muslim. I don't have any Muslim family members. I have no family or friends that live in the Middle East, Israel, Gaza, the West Bank, Egypt, anywhere. None. I am sitting in a place of privilege being able to say, you guys should vote for Biden. However, I am not going to do that. I am not going to sit here and tell anyone who to vote for. I'm going to say, hey, Trump will make whatever your issue is way fucking worse. Okay, even if you're a Republican and you're like, I want the border fixed, trust me, Trump's not your guy. Okay, he's going to make it worse, not better. Sorry, it's just true. He's going to make it worse. So that's it. I'm going to say that. And I will say, under Trump, there's a high probability that democracy's done, that it's dead. Now, I've heard this strange argument. I heard it first. There was an Atlantic piece, I think it was The Atlantic, who interviewed some random Republican they had seen at several things, and he said he was for Nikki Haley, but then just recently he decided, no, I want Trump. And the reason he wants Trump is because he wants the system broken because he thinks it deserves to be broken, and that Trump will be the man to rebuild it. Now, first off, Trump is not the man to do anything, really. He'll make great worm food. That's about all he's good for. So he's not going to do it. And even if he did, seriously, why would you want a man who shits on a golden toilet to decide the new constitution, if we had one, of the United States, or to be the moral arbiter of our futures? That's a terrible decision. It's horrible. But I would argue that if Trump gets in and he breaks the system, because there are these lefties, some of these lefties, they believe that the system should be broken. Fine. Great. You have to understand, if you're left of center, there is no one on your side in a position to pick up the pieces and rebuild this. We do not have an FDR. We do not have a Bernie Sanders is not in position to seize the reins of government and drive us into that wonderful socialist future you're hoping for. You cannot predict how this is going to be. The people that are going to break the system would be Trump and the people that back him. Who are the people that back him? Techno-authoritarians, okay? Who are the people most likely to rebuild America in their image? Right now, it's not the Democrats. It's certainly not any socialists, communists, or anybody left. You are going to get Zuckerberg, Musk, Jamie Dimon, the bankers, CEOs. Those are the people currently who are ready to pounce and take control of this country. They're ready. They have the means. They have the opportunity if Trump gets in. This is what they've been waiting for. Okay, you have social media moguls like Zuckerberg and Musk who can drive the conversation any way they want. They can silence the people they don't want. It's happened to me many times before, especially with Zuckerberg. His AI sucks and doesn't know what satire is, but regardless, these people can ban whoever they want, pump up whoever they want, control whatever they want. Microsoft owns NBC. That's the MS and NBC, okay? Comcast has a lot of control. The guy who owns the Washington Post is Jeff Bezos. The New York Times is owned by a hedge fund conglomerate that is pushing it more and more to the right. There is no liberal army, figuratively or literally, that can come in and pick up the pieces of a broken America. We're not in a position to do that. The DSA is not ready to take over. So if Trump comes in and breaks it, the people that put him in that position to break it are going to be the ones who get to pick up the pieces. So I would urge you, look, if you think the system should be broken, I'm not going to argue with you. I agree. But you have to understand these things, there are too many moving parts. You do not know who is going to win. And right now, the likelihood is the people with all the money and influence, Wall Street and Silicon Valley, are going to be the ones to come together and rebuild this country. Okay? If you're pissed off that a bunch of rich white landowners and slave owners wrote the Constitution the first time, wait until you see what Zuckerberg and Musk have in store for you. Okay? So I would just caution that. If you're all about breaking the system and you're going to vote for Trump because that's the quickest way to do it, okay, fine. But know what you're getting into. And know that your side, the side that you want, the things that you want, are not going to be represented by these people. Okay, that's the end of that rant. Let's get on to the next one. I just watched one of the most full of shit press conferences you've ever heard of. In this case, it was Speaker Mike Johnson today announcing that he was not going to push forward the border bill that has been bipartisan support in the Senate. It has been argued for, and it's basically a wish list for Republicans. Democrats aren't asking for anything in exchange for this other than some funding for Ukraine. It gives the president a shit ton of powers. It increases funding so that there will be lawyers and judges who can, work through this system. Because right now, one of the major complaints is the asylum system is being abused. This closes a lot of those loopholes and gives funding to the legal apparatus around that entire system to function quicker and actually deal with things. Okay? But he is not going to pursue it. Okay? He doesn't want it. And his argument against it is that even if he likes the bill, he doesn't trust Biden to actually implement it because, he just doesn't trust him. He's like, well, Senate Secretary Mayorkas, who's a Homeland Security Secretary, is already ignoring the law. And obviously, if we give more powers to Biden, he'll just continue to ignore the law. So we don't trust him, so we're not going to pass it. Now, I would argue that not trusting a president with the powers you're about to give him is a good argument. I, for years, have been making the case that, before you give a president powers, emergency or otherwise, you should ask yourself, do I want my worst case scenario to have this power? Right? That's me. My brain always goes there. Right now, I've got, Donald Trump. Okay. I would not want Donald Trump with the powers that this bill gives. So in my brain, if I don't want my worst case scenario to have it, and I can't control elections, I don't know who's going to be the next president, it's a very good argument to say, you know what, we don't trust the president with these new powers because we don't trust any president with these new powers. But the argument's made in bad faith because Speaker Mike Johnson isn't against giving the president these powers, he's against this president having them. He's fine if his guy gets to do it. And that's why it's a bad faith argument. You can't pick and choose, because once this law is on the books, barring a repeal, which rarely happens, it's going to be on the books forever. Okay, we could be talking 10 presidents down the line, 40 years from now. There could be another president who has a completely different set of values and ethics and immediately comes in and uses this law in ways that we do not intend and we don't want. But the law's on the books, gotta do what you gotta do. It is an extremely short-sighted move. I wish the reporters would have pushed back on this, but they didn't. So it's a bad faith argument that he's making. The second thing he did was he suggested that the president really doesn't need this new law because he already has the power to shut down the border. This is debated by many legal scholars. A lot of people, only the Trump supporters think the president has the magical power to wave a magic wand and shut down the border. He does not. Okay? It's very clear that he does not. But that's what the speaker says, and that's what they want. They wish that the president would just go ahead and do this. Now, even if the president did order it, I guarantee you a state would sue. The Supreme Court would side with the state. It's very clear. That's why the president is asking for these powers, so that way he won't get sued by one of the rogue states, and the Supreme Court won't side with him, because right now, as the laws are written, the Supreme Court would likely rule against Biden. So what do you do about this? Okay, he's going ahead and he's going to say we're going to put a fund to Israel all by itself package, like $17 billion to help them defend themselves, but we're not going to do jack nor shit about the border because we don't trust the president. But oh, by the way, he already has these powers, so what the hell are we doing? It's a completely bullshit argument, and this is my favorite part, or this is what I wish would happen in my grand thing. If I had the president's ear, I would be like, Mr. President, you need to call his fucking bluff right now. You need to make a huge speech. I mean, seriously, give an Oval Office primetime address and be like, per Speaker Johnson's interpretation of the law, that closing the border is something that I can do. I am hereby doing it. I am signing this executive order. I'm going to shut down the border right now. I am federalizing all those National Guards that said they wanted to help, and there's about 18 Republican governors going along with it. I'm going to federalize them all, send them to the border, shut it down, we're done. And I'm going to do this because I want to prove to the American people and to the Republican Party that this is a bad idea. I'm actually going to do this to prove what a stupid, terrible idea this is. Right now, there is $2 billion with a B of commerce between the southern border, between Mexico and America right now. If you close it, America will lose, the United States will lose $2 billion per day. If we stop every single migrant coming across and just tell them, no, we are closed for business, and we turn around, our economy, which right now is statistically great, is going to collapse. And when that happens, I want everyone to know that this was Speaker Johnson. This was the Republican Party. This is what they said I have the power to do. So I don't expect any attorney general from a red state or from a border state to sue on the behalf of them to say that I can't do this, because it's very clear that the opposition leader, Speaker Mike Johnson, says that I have this power. So I should be able to do it. And I'm going to do it to prove to you that it's dumb and that the Republicans aren't serious. They are not a serious governing party. But everyone thinks this is the right thing to do, from Fox News to MSNBC. Everybody says the border's in a bad way, and he says I already have this power, so I'm going to do it. And I'm going to prove to you that it sucks, because everybody's going to see the United States lose $2 billion per day and watch our economy crater. And I'm going to sit there and be the whole time. Remember, this was Speaker Mike Johnson's idea. He said I have the power. And I challenge any red state attorney general to sue me, take me to the Supreme Court, and say I don't have this power, in direct opposition to your own political party leader. Now, he'll never do that. Biden doesn't have the balls to do that. He actually thinks tanking the economy to spite his opposition would be a bad thing. The United States of America is no longer there. If he tanks the economy to prove a point, he would win votes. That's how screwed up our system is right now. If he tanks it to prove a point, it would work. If he shut down the government, he said, rest of February, tough shit, you're out. The first thing that would happen, I guarantee you, is that Republicans would sue him. They would ask for an immediate stay. It would probably be granted because, again, the president does not have this power. So that would give judicial credence to Biden's point of view that he does not have this power. It would immediately shrink Mike Johnson to a little tiny farm ant. And also, in the meantime, yeah, we would lose $2 billion a day. Do you know if our economy can survive that? Because right now, per the statistics, our economy is just chugging along just fine. And if he goes and throws a monkey wrench into it, I believe the economy is a house of cards right now. I don't believe it's as strong as all the indicators suggest. And I believe him shutting down the border for even a few days would immediately crater it. And I think that's a good thing. Because hear me out. Right now, Trump is running on, I hope the economy crashes because that way I'll get reelected and Biden will lose because he'll own it. This is a way to purposefully crash the economy, prove a point, and everyone would have to be like, oh crap, he did what the Republicans wanted and it crashed. Take ownership of it by passing in the buck. I know it's a crazy strategy. It might not work, but I'm sitting here going, you know what? There are a lot of Americans right now who actually say that if Trump is convicted of any of his crimes, that'll just make them like him more or want to vote for him. So up is not up anymore. Up is down. Left is right. Everything's backwards. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. That's the world we live in right now. So I think Biden should lean into it and just give the double bird to this asshole. This speaker, this nutbag, just be like, you wanted it? I'm going to give it to you. And then give it to him. Give it all to him. And dare him. Because I guarantee you, Texas, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, every single one of them is going to run to the Supreme Court and ask for a stay. Be like, no, don't let him do it. But Biden doesn't have the balls. And he doesn't understand the situation. That's why I think he's going to lose. But anyway. Those are the things going on today. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you again tomorrow.